Let's get started. My name is Anne Marie McGee, and I am a Philanos board member. I co-chair the communications committee. I'm also a member of Impact 100 Redwood Circle in Sonoma County in Northern California. I would like to introduce my partner in crime for this. Renee Gordon is a Philanos board member, and she can take it from there.
Will I put up the slide now?
Yes, but would you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Renee Gordon. I'm with the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle, and I am a board member, and I also sit on the Philanos Communications Committee and the Tech Committee. And I hope to see most, if not all of you, at the conference. If you haven't registered, you can still register, and you can even attend virtually. We have that option now.
For like I think 7 sessions are going to be virtual. So it's all on our website. We really suggest you go there, share all that. So Renee's going to put up a really quick slide just to say, here's what we're going to talk about today. And I think it's a relevant topic. I don't care what your circle is or where you are. If someone is on here and says, oh, we never have challenges, then we want to hear from you right away. So, but we are going to talk about the types of things that work well to attract new members, and also what we do to retain members, which is, member engagement and helping them feel like they belong. So with the new members, we'll talk briefly about recruiting cycles, because some of us have very different cycles from each other. And so when you do make a comment, it might be helpful if you frame it with the type of recruiting cycle that you have, and then talk about what kinds of events and how do you manage the expenses for your events to recruit. The same thing with retaining members and engaging them. What types of member-only events and volunteer opportunities do you use to ensure that people feel like they're part of this? We'd like to start, and I want to go around with everybody. Thanks, Renee. I'm going to ask that I'd like to get 5 volunteers that would just share what's your biggest challenge with recruiting new members. Anybody want to start? Joanne.
I had to unmute myself first.
Yes.
So our biggest challenge is recruiting members who don't look like all the other members that we have. And so whether it's age or ethnicity, those 2 categories are challenging for us, because our primary recruiting source is referrals.
Okay. And by referrals, do you mean member referrals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just a quick poll. How many here rely on member referrals almost solely for your recruiting? Yeah. Okay. So that also, I think that we had a webinar last week. It's like we have so much going on that I think it was last week or the week before, but and it was talking about women in philanthropy, and she did talk about how, like, it was a very interesting conversation about Black philanthropists, female philanthropists that took it on, and then and white philanthropists, and she was using the contrast. And one of the really poignant questions was, how do we get these networks to work together? And she said each has to expand their network. You think of like a Venn diagram and then meet in the middle, but there are some I know where I live, it's like Losian has a huge number of Hispanic women, Latino women, and wow, how do you tap into that and collaborate and find somewhere to combine? So Joanne, your question is like really, really relevant, I'm sure, for everyone here. Who's somebody else that wants to talk about a challenge?
I'll say I'm Tanya Detzley with Impact Austin. This is probably our #1 issue right now, is both recruiting and retention. But regarding recruiting, I don't think it's one thing. I think it's, oh gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think some of it is just getting out to the community, because Austin has grown so much and it's constantly growing. It's kind of getting out in the community to meet different women and I don't know. Some of it is that could be a little bit of a challenge. So, but we have lost members, our group as a whole, the last few years. The pandemic didn't help at all, and so that was a challenge. But anyway, but we're trying different things, and so it's kind of a slow process. So anyway. But like I said, it's because that one question I had is how, because I don't, not knowing what is the funds an issue with getting kind of trying to recruit new members, is how much it costs to become a member and that kind of thing. Does that, because that's a question that I wanted to find out a little bit about today. So
Okay, thank you. Thanks. We'll come back to that in just a second. Sue Pitchford.
Yes, if you want to find out, about different membership tiers, and make sure you come to the conference and come to my session that I'm part of.
I was trying to remember who was talking about that. I'm like,
Right.
flipping.
Right. So that's one. But if you talk about problems recruiting, we actually, as a result of the membership tiers changing, we've actually gained 66 members in the last year, and we're only a 305 member organization. So it's made a tremendous difference. But we still have, I'm curious about if people actually measure retention, because we actually measure it, and it's a little bit better now, but I would say we average about 10% of the total per year don't renew. That's not a we grow. We've been growing every year a lot, but we gained 66, but we lost 30 or something like that. So it's retention is difficult.
Okay. Beth Thorson. There.
Yeah, good morning. I'm also with Impact Austin, and so am a good friend of Tanya's. And I just wanted to add to what she had to say. We've had some initial success in bridging that age barrier by reaching out to a group here in Austin called Junior Women's Alliance. And so they age out at 35. And so we've been trying to create a partnership with them. And we also have a tentative meeting with leadership of the Junior League of Austin, again, because they age out. Well, they go into sustaining membership at 45, but again, there's that kind of finality to that. So those are two things that we've done. And I think that one of the challenges we find is that Austin has a lot of young people, as Tanya mentioned, we're growing so fast, and they're very, very passionate, but don't have a lot of money. And so they channel that passion into creating new nonprofits. We have probably one of the highest per capita nonprofit rate of any city our size. And so we're challenged to convince them of the value in collaboration and collective giving rather than their niche passion giving. So that's what we're facing here.
No, thank you. That's I wouldn't have thought about the nonprofits that you might be competing with, or the startup nonprofits, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, no, thank you for sharing that. Who's somebody else? Anybody? Oh, Jolene. You're on mute, Jolene.
Sorry, got it. We have made some success, at least, or inroads into, I think, getting more diverse ethnically, but age-wise, I would like to see us getting some younger members, not just for our group, but also just in general, our community needs to cultivate that philanthropic mindset in the younger generation, because we're a small community with a small number of very large donors normally, but they are just a fact starting to die off. And we need to figure out a way to bring those younger people into the philanthropic community. So any thoughts on that would be great.
No, that's I like that frame too, the community mindset, that it's our responsibility as philanthropic women to look at that and think about that. Paula Norwood?
Yeah,
Did
I'm
you have-
sorry. I joined late because I thought I had registered for this one, but I hadn't. So I had to go through all the registration. I apologize.
Don't we love Nancy? She's so
Yeah,
fast.
and I was on a tech talk last week and I thought I registered for both of these. So anyways, here I am.
Okay.
I don't know the question that was posed to the group, but in response, I did hear this last woman's response about getting younger members. And we are also, that is something that our group, which is much smaller than most of your groups, like we have 90 some members, low 90s. And, we've been picking up a lot of new members, but all of our new members are kind of, are older, like the women that founded this group originally, like myself. And anyways, we did start, and if I'm not, because I got in late, I didn't hear the question posed, but we started this new for 45 and younger. So it's half the cost of our annual membership, which is $1,075 with the admin fee. And so it's 500. And I don't know if you talked about that. I don't know if
No,
this
we're
is
just
pertinent.
getting started. So
Okay.
and so and that's been successful for you to cut it in half like that.
Well, we don't know yet. Truthfully, we
Okay.
we instituted it just at our annual meeting, the beginning of, and now the end of September. So we don't know yet. But what the issue is that we have to figure out and how we can, and what I think this last woman said, or someone, when I came on, someone else was speaking. How do we reach that younger group and get the word out? So we're really trying to focus. We will be focusing on that, and any suggestions from anybody out there and on this membership roundtable, it would be welcome, because we're just starting.
We're going to come back and talk about a couple of things. So Erin Jury.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So I think I'm just going to echo, I'm not going to repeat everybody else's challenges on diversity, retention, what have you. But an idea that was floated by us literally just yesterday in a meeting was to consider building what a nonprofit would call a junior board, or which, by the way, I can't stand that name for the group, but some type of a younger member ancillary board that has some responsibilities toward the overall objectives of Impact Grants Chicago, not necessarily adjusting their membership like the donation and the admin fees and whatnot don't come into it, but just to build agency with a diversity community, either an age group or an ethnicity group, just to have them build some agency in our impact chapter. Has anybody else considered this, tried this? Any reactions to that?
Anybody out here done that? I know that's a model. Sometimes when you join, like I did junior women's club, not junior league, but we had a project for new members that year, the novice project, whatever. And that was such a great way to feel like you got involved and learned the nonprofits in the area. And I think it was a small suburb, and we hosted a Easter egg hunt. That was a big thing. So you learn where to go for the sponsors and how to do that. And I think that's kind of, I I love that idea because I think if you want to engage and develop a cohort, having a board like that or some kind of committee or group could go a long ways as long as they have a purpose. They could have a small grant that they have to vet and figure out where to go and what to do with it. I can relate to an experience. I sometimes mentor young college students, and this is someone who was first generation to go to college, and she had the experience of being part of a group. I'm trying to really hard to remember the name, but they were given $5,000, and it was her first exposure to philanthropy. And they awarded it to a social justice group. Now she's a little bit different, but as a result of that, she's now in law school at the University of Washington and totally committed to being the social justice, probably more like immigration is where she's going to go. But that was eye-opening for her. So that's another way of responsibility back to the community too. So Nancy.
Sure. Two things. So I'm from Giving Women, which is in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And one thing I wanted to mention is that one of our community foundations here has a specific Next Generation Fund that is specifically geared towards younger participants, men and women. It's gender neutral, but that's how they're organized, and that's their board, and that's how they get people involved, and they're mainly a referral organization as well, and that friends are inviting friends to come into that. So that was just one thing to share, is if any of your other community foundations are doing something that maybe could be a feeder or a partnership opportunity. The other thought I'll share is we've been talking about the same topic as well in terms of engaging younger members. And so one of the things that we're going to try, I don't have an answer yet, is we're going to hold a little focus group with a very informal focus group with some nieces, daughters, friends of some current members, and just have it at a casual bar, something, low profile, and just bring them together to ask them some questions about what would it be like if you'd like to engage in something like this. Many of them have attended some of our events, so we're hoping that they'll, have firsthand experience to say, well, this is how I felt when I came to your event, or, they'll be able to give firsthand reactions to that. So just one idea to share.
Oh, thank you. Has anyone else tried something similar like that? Focus groups? Or Sue, what have you tried that?
Well, what we do, we only have 2 closed meetings a year, meaning 2 meetings where it's only members. Every other meeting is open to the public. And we have a 2,000 person contact list. So we have a newsletter that goes out every month, plus we have events. We have 4 educational events on important topics in the community, such as homelessness or preschool childcare. And we also have an open house, which is for anybody to come to learn. We also have what's called a grant showcase. And the grant showcase the open house was very good, but the grant showcase is what the grantees from last year that just finished their grant on July the 1st actually present, and they talk about how they use the money. And then the new grantees, along with the previous ones, all have tables and information, and they talk all about their nonprofits, and just like a fair. And we get, because of our change in our tier membership, our level used to be $575 for everybody, and now you can join as little as $175. So it's $175, $375, $575, and $1075. And we've gotten a lot of new members from the nonprofits themselves, and most of them are younger. So that's really, we have a full, it's like every event is a recruiting event, but we really don't have other special events.
So Renee, and then I want to go back and talk about tiered membership levels, because I think that sounds very successful to me, Sue. So, Renee, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Sue, I had a question because I find it absolutely fascinating that only 2 meetings that you hold during a given year are for members only and everything else is for the public. How did you build a contact list for the public?
It's really through attendance. I mean, we've been in existence since 2006, and we've done educational events from the very beginning. So it just ramps up, and anybody that registers for it, even if they don't show up, all of a sudden they're on our contact list. So it's really from building up all the contacts in the community. And then if somebody has a referral that they want people to get newsletters or information about the events, then they get added to the contact list as well.
Oh, thank you. Let's talk about tiered membership for a minute, because Sue, that's a positive result with your different levels. Who else is using a tiered membership model and it's successful? So Sally.
Well, the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle went to our regular dues was $1,150, but we went to 45 and under, half of that, and for a year or 2 years, I can't remember now. And someone pointed out to us, it's not necessarily age. There's some very successful women who are 45 and under. Sometimes it's women who have retired and have time and want to get involved. So this is the first year we've gone to 600, 1,200, and 2,500, making it very clear, give to what works for your philanthropic budget. And there are no special perks or advantages at any level. So everybody gets the same opportunity to vote on grants, be on committees, and etc. Now, since this just started in July, we won't be able to evaluate exactly how successful it is, but we'll be glad to report back next year.
And we look forward to that. And so do they also have an equal vote when you vote on grants? Okay.
Everybody, yeah, the only thing to vote on grants, if you were not a grant reader and went through the training, is you have to watch a video that talks about, implicit bias or whatever the grants group wants you to make sure your awareness is raised.
Oh,
This is Anne. Hi, I'm Sally's co-chair. I think we do have a little bit of information so far because our year starts in July. So of those who have renewed, it's about 6% at the $600 level, 79% at the $1,200 level, which is close to what it used to be. So that's around 14 to 16% at the $2,500 level. So we have had quite a few members step up. We were assuming that most people, like 80%, would do the 1,200 and then 10% at the 6 and 10% at the 25, but we've been pleasantly surprised that it's a little higher at the 25. But again, it's just September. But so far, it seems to be working. And we have had some people who left the circle and moved out of state come back at the $600 level because they just like what we do and they can still be involved at a lower level. So that's been, not a ton of people, but you just never know what a tiered membership is going to do.
All right, thanks. Well, I made a note here because we definitely want to follow that model. You also renew on a rolling schedule, is that right? At Baltimore Women's Giving, you do once a year? Okay. So what's the renewal period then? Sally?
It's interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Sally.
Our fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th. The first renewal notice goes out at the beginning of July, and then another one goes to people who haven't yet renewed, and another one. I think we send out 4 renewal notices, saying, come on, it's time, renew.
What's your cutoff?
In the past, it's gone all the way into February. And the drop dead is is March 30th, when we know how much money we have to give away. Now, we are pushing it and saying, December 31st is going to be the drop dead, but we'll see.
Okay, so people
call-
do, right
We
now they
call
have
them
9.
reluctant members.
Okay. And not a lot of incentive. So I'm in a circle where we have a rolling, you can join any month and you can renew based on, you joined for a year. It's a very complicated administrative model, but no one has a solution how we would convert everybody to renewing at the same time of year. So we have, the people that founded it all renew. They tend to renew in November, December. But the rule is at the end of December, supposedly by January 15th, they tally up what the fund is, what's in the fund, and then that's the amount that can be awarded for the grant cycles in the coming year. So it's a little bit of a mystery. I love the people that renew within a certain like 60 days, renew and you're gone. It's much easier administratively. That's because it puts a lot of burden on the membership committee. It gives a whole new meaning to recruiting and to engaging and retaining. So Sue?
Well, by the way, we do have it's one person, one vote. So even if they paid $175, then they still get one vote. We actually did this, it's been just a little over a year. So we have a year under our belt. The members who renewed, 90% of them renewed at the old rate, $575 over and up to $1075. The new members, it's split pretty evenly across the $175, $375, and $575. We've only had a few at the $1075 join that way. But I'm chair of the membership committee this year. I was president in 2019. And we have a large membership committee that follows up with every single person who is up for renewal. And the purpose of it is, of course, eventually to get them to renew. But we talk to every single person to find out, how they're doing, if they want to get involved, are there things that they like or don't like? Plus, we remind them that their renewal is due. It's a lot of work, but I think it makes a tremendous difference in retention.
Okay. No, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Who else has a tiered membership model? I saw some other, so Jolene.
We have a tiered membership, and I'd have to, Carolyn is on here. I'm not exactly sure what the levels are. It's been that way ever since I joined, which was about 8 to 10 years ago. It seems to be working well for us. But one thing we also do in addition is we have a small amount set aside for scholarships. So if somebody is interested and wants to join, they say, I really like it, but I think I like the concept, but I just can't afford. We can do a scholarship for a certain number of years until they feel like then they have the money to contribute. And I think it really helps when we emphasize that your membership is what goes all together to make your money go farther than it could if you just gave $500, $1,000 to something on your own, that you can do more with a smaller amount of money. But I just wanted to add that scholarship idea in that we use.
Right. Anyone else have scholarships for members that you may want to join? Sherry? You're on mute.
Yeah. We have actually, we were lucky enough at one point, we got someone to donate some funds specifically because they wanted to attract younger members. And so our scholarships are directed at, it's called the Young Professional Program. And you can apply this time of year is when we're having applications come in. Then you have a graduated, so it's over, I forget if it's 3 or 4 years because I don't manage it, but there's a person that manages that. And then you start out at a much lower level. It's not completely covered, but you're starting at a smaller level, at a lower level. And then each year it goes up so that I believe it's in year 4. Hopefully you're a full member or a half member, because we have those 2 levels in our organization. And then we have someone that, we were talking earlier about the young younger professional groups and giving them responsibility, we do keep that group together and have some social gatherings just for the young professionals. And then we also have them help with our events. So in terms of responsibility, we do give them some involvement with the organization. They can obviously come to any of our meetings and all of that as well. And the young professionals, the person that manages that program is a board member.
Oh, thank you. I like that. I'm going to share for a second what my circle does. So we have about 260 members. It depends what month it is where we are, but our we have what we call a dyad membership. So about 20% of our members opt for that, and they share it with another person. So each pays $500 for a total of $1,000, and then they each pay the administrative fee, which right now is $125, whereas a full membership is $1,000 plus $125. So that's one part. There's a lot of discussion because the dyad memberships have to share their vote. So they have to, one of them has to agree to be the one that actually votes. We vote online now, and then they share that. And there is discussion about moving to one person, one vote. There's a lot of changes that we're doing leadership wise, and I think that'll be something that'll be looked at later. And then, so that's one part. Is it effective? It's hard to say because we see people that also have said, oh, I'm going to share this with my daughter. So they were a full membership, and then we get two people and they're sharing it. So not sure we're seeing exactly what we want, but it does give an entry point for people. Let's see. And I love the concept of young professionals. Oh, that's another one. We have a sponsorship program that's more business sponsorship. So people actually go visit, like we have banks and some very large companies that own a lot of wineries, and they'll go visit and get them to sponsor somebody. And there has been some success with that in terms of having members join, but not as successful with engaging those young professionals. And that's a discussion point. And then the third one, we do have a fund that we call the Core Values Fund, and it will pay for the membership for somebody that people know in the community. They want her to be part of it. It was something that the membership has voted on. Individual members can donate specifically to that fund, and that can be, it's equivalent of a scholarship. We also have used it for a membership for our impact grant recipient. That's our $100,000 grant. And then we have two what we call merit awards, and they are, this year they're each going to be $20,000. So we have 3 finalists and then one winner, and then 2 that will receive the $20,000. So we'll be on November 11th, we'll be granting $140,000. And so the people that those nonprofits, each one of them will have the opportunity to have a CEO or some woman in their organization designated as a member. We've seen nice results this last year with engaging and broadening our diversity in our membership with that. And they bring perspective. One of these women, they were a finalist and did not receive the impact grant, but she has been really, really involved with our membership committee. And she's the head of the Spanish radio station here in the county. So those are things I'll share that I think might be interesting. I saw somebody's hand a moment ago. The screen is flipping on me. So Ann Daniels.
Yeah, thanks. Interested in, you're an impact group, right? So you just have 3 or 4 grants a year?
No, we make our whole thing even more complicated. So we have 2 grant cycles. We have a spring grant cycle, which we call our community grants. This year we awarded almost $100,000 to 6 nonprofits. And that cycle, we did the announcement in May. So it cycles through January to May. And then we go through the impact grant, which is coming up now. So it's split in 2. And for the first time next year, it's going to be 1 committee. We've had 2 different grant committees, which also is more challenging. So we're trying to streamline things a little bit, but it's 2 cycles.
Okay, so I'm interested in, we've talked a lot about having grantees become members or offering somebody in the grant, but we have about between 20 and 26 grants a year. So I'd really be interested to know, and we've had a lot of members say, well, do they get to vote on the grants? And are they going to be comfortable voting on the grants? Or, how does their membership work? Is it going to be uncomfortable for them? So I don't know if I want to take all this time right now, but I don't know if that's something you can answer, if those were issues for you, or whether I should just contact you offline about how it works to have grantees as members.
Well, let's do both, and maybe even at the conference we can talk more. But I will say I'll use the woman from KBBF as an example. And she gave a very poignant little talk at one of our last meetings. I guess it was a membership meeting, where she said, even though my board was disappointed we didn't receive the $100,000 grant, this has opened up so many opportunities for us. So she saw it as broadening her network. We saw it as broadening ours. So I think it takes a special person as well, because she's not, she couldn't afford to pay for that membership on her own. So we are paying for it. I think the question is going to be, can we renew it out of the core values fund, because everybody likes her so much and she's been so incredibly helpful. I think if we determine the core values fund can't renew her, I think somebody's going to step up and sponsor her on their own. But it's been very successful. You are correct. I think there's others where maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable, and it's hard to gauge that. You don't know. But I would say overall, we would say this has been really, really positive. I'm currently managing our events, but I'm on my last one coming up. But I sit on the membership committee, which is what I really have the passion for. And I think that's just a really positive direction to go if we want to talk about improving and increasing our reach in Sonoma County. So,
do only your impact grantees get a membership? Do the community grantees get a membership?
They don't. And part of that is a really good discussion point, and we are talking a lot about that because we had the 6, although those 6 look so different. Some people, there's a couple of them that immediately joined as a dyad. They joined with someone else from their group, or they joined with a member that they knew. Our members have to nominate for those grants. That grantees don't have the opportunity to apply on their own. So yes, when you talk about the equity and the fairness of it, but it was new this year to even grant those out of the core values fund. And in fact, that's on our agenda tomorrow night for the membership committee. So stay tuned. But
Anne-Marie?
Yes.
Beth Thorson and Joan Rosen had their hands up before.
Okay. So Beth, where are you? There.
Hello. So I was just going to mention that we also have a scholarship type program, and we've been able to get corporate sponsors to fund those. It could be up to the full amount of our membership, which is $1,250. $1,000 goes to the grants, $250 goes to administrative costs. The application form asks the applicant how much they can contribute. So we don't set the amount. We let them say, I can contribute $25 a month. I can contribute up to $675 at one time, or whatever. So they set that parameter for us. And then there's a small group, 3 members, who just, chat with the applicant and find out what her interests are, try to guide her to some potential committee situations if she'd be interested in that. And then she gets the money. So it's very seamless and very trust-based.
Okay. Thank you. Joan, you were patient. So.
Yeah, I'm at Impact 100 in Westchester County, New York. We have a similar to what you described, which is why I actually lowered my hand. We do a scholarship that we offer to we have 2 large grants each year, and we offer to that nonprofit. What we require is that the person that comes on as a full member, and that they participate in a grant committee, because it's been found that they offer a lot of different a different perspective than our members do if they're on a grant committee. Some of them it's worked out great, and as at the end, the co-chairs of the grant committee have said, I want this person to be on again, and we'll sponsor, someone will come up and sponsor their membership. Some really didn't take to it and really didn't contribute much, and we only offer it for a year. And if after that, and because the next year we'd offer it to another grantee. The scholarships, people with their memberships often say, I'll give a scholarship to whoever needs it. And we do say when we get prospective members, if you can't, we don't have tiered membership, it's one. But if you really can, if you can't afford it and you'd like to join, we can talk about it, and we would find someone to sponsor that person.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for sharing that. Even though it might repeat, I think we each have a little bit of a different twist, or there's some little nuances that may be helpful for as we want to design the perfect program. Moving on for a moment on recruiting events, how do you fund your recruiting events? How do you balance out with your member engagement? I think that's maybe one way to look at it. Anybody want to start with that one? Sherry.
We have a series of events. I guess I could say that we partially fund them. So one of the things that we do is we called spread the word events, and those are held generally at a member's home. And so we have members that offer to invite their neighbors. We invite our membership at large. They can bring potential prospects with them. And then though we have a little stipend that we can give them to help with food and drink, we always invite and have one of our nonprofit past awardees come and give a little presentation, and then the rest of it is sort of meet and mingle, ask questions. The recruiting team does a little bit of a talk, but it's sort of very much a mix of social and business. And then we do some recruiting events at our grant winners places as well. So it may be, a library, a warehouse, whatever. And those we fund, we have a budget for, and we fund those fully in terms of refreshments and things like that. But we don't ever really pay for space for our recruiting events.
Okay. That's interesting. You use the nonprofits for that. That's really good comment. Free rental, I hope. Free space.
Well, and the people that attend, especially prospects, for them to see, to see what is something in action, basically, and hear from the grantee how the money was used is just a huge selling point. I mean, it tells the story better than we could.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Someone else want to share? Sue, thank you.
While we don't have specific recruiting events, we do have something we call getting togethers. And that's where all of the members are invited to just get together either at a happy hour or at a coffee. And we try to have 5 or 6 of those a year, and people bring potential members. And that's really one of our most successful events, because it's really just social. We sometimes have it at a nonprofit. We had it at the library, who was one of our grantees. So it's really more social, but that's what people like.
Thank you. No, that's excellent. Anne, your hand's up.
Hi, thanks. We do a lot of the same things, but one of the things I think that we're thinking about or struggling with, especially around recruitment of, diversity, whether it's age, socioeconomic status, where somebody lives in the city, is that a lot of our members' houses are very big and very beautiful and in very white areas, and they're not necessarily the people are welcoming, but folks who look different and have different lives don't necessarily feel comfortable there. So I think we're sort of struggling with that, because certainly having people in people's homes is great. You want to invite someone in, you want to have them meet people, but then we've heard a couple times that it made some people feel uncomfortable. So I think that's just a question I would put out to all of you all. I love the idea of having things at the grantees or awardees place. And this is something else that we've really been thinking about and not struggling with, but sort of playing with, is if we're going to ask our grantees for something, their time, their expertise, should we be compensating them? It's really helpful to us not to have to pay for something, but if you're asking for their time or their space for 3 hours, and they're really our partners and we value their expertise, should we not be offering to compensate them for their space? Now, I realize they probably love having us come, and they get a huge thing. It's just a question. Where's the line between, there you go. I don't have to say anything else. So I would be really interested in having people talk about that too.
Hey, Joan.
Yeah, so we do an annual kickoff meeting in the fall, and we're doing it at one of our smaller grantees. Last year, they didn't win our big award, but it's a therapeutic horse farm, and with the money that we gave them, they put up more fences for their paddocks, and the fences need to be painted. So we're doing a picnic and painting event. So people will pay for lunch, people come for picnic lunch, and then we're asking people to come and help paint. So the nonprofit is getting our help, 25 or 30 volunteers to help them paint, and showing off. They want to apply for another grant because they didn't get the big grant. So this is another way of them showcasing who they are, and we'll do the picnic. So hopefully it will be successful. And I think it's the first Saturday in 7 weeks that it's not raining in New York. So that should be good too.
I love that idea. What a great engagement tool, as well as a kickoff. Anybody else want to comment on that? So I will add, from Redwood Circle, we recently in the summer, we hosted a social at the Sonoma County Museum, and it was intended to be a member social, and it turned into it was a huge success. But one of the board members, who's also a member of our circle, paid the fee to rent the space. So it was using an art gallery and then being able to tour the museum. And we recognized her and thanked her for doing that. But when you use space, if they have to pay their staff, it is a burden on them to, a museum has docents. You can't just drop into a museum or an art gallery, because they have to have their own staff there to cover that. So that was a good way to work around it. We also have a policy that we don't go to a nonprofit's location unless they've received a grant from us. We feel that if we went somewhere where they hadn't received a grant, it might create some inequities with that. Whether they received a community grant or an impact grant wouldn't matter. So someone just raised their, Sue.
Yeah, we're very concerned about giving grantees a leg up if they intend to apply for a grant the next year. So we do a what we call a field trip and do things like that too, but we have to be really, really careful because it's 2 years they can get a grant, and then they have to sit out. So it's only during the sit out year that we can do it and feel comfortable that they're not going to apply.
No, thanks. Anybody else want to share? So on retention, we heard a few comments already, the individual outreach, and that's being successful. What other things help you, especially retain that brand new member who doesn't engage that first year? They're kind of getting the lay of the land. How many events do they have the opportunity to come to, or how many engagement points do they have? Those are some of the questions I'd like to throw out there, just to have you think about something you could contribute to. Anybody want to comment on that? On engaging the current members? Sue. Oh,
I can
how
talk.
about Tanya?
I know.
Talk for a moment.
Let's let Tanya talk.
Okay, with new members, we have, as part of our membership committee, we have a position called the new member outreach coordinator. And she's specifically involved in helping with new members get acquainted, involved, engaged, etc. And every member is going to do something different. And so, but we encourage all new members to join a grant review committee. If you can't do it at the beginning, at least within the first couple years that you've been, when you can. And if you can't do a grant review committee, would you like to do something else that's volunteer? Because you may not have the time to be able to do something like that. So we do something like that with new members, a very involved connection that we have with new members during their first year. With other members, we have a part of our membership, we have we call it, been rebranded as Member Connections team that we plan. It originally was mostly just social events, but we do also do volunteer activities in the community, often with community partners. We'll do all kinds of things. We may do something where we do something fun that we pay for, like a class. It could be we go hiking. We could do different kinds of things in the community to kind of get to know each other a little bit more. So we do something like that about being connected with members. One of the things we talked about before, I think someone had talked about their events. All of our events are open to both members and guests. If we're doing something internally, organizationally, it's different. Like if we're working on a committee or something, that's with members usually. But otherwise, all of our events where we have like 3 annual events that are in the community. We have other kinds of events, whether it's, I call it recruitment in nature, whether it's, we call them coffees at homes, or we do something in the community, at a community kind of restaurant or something. Or we do other kinds of events, including what we call our member connection events, where an opportunity for members and guests to kind of do something and get to know each other a little bit. So we have different kinds of things. And so, it's one of the things I really liked. I was trying to think of what someone mentioned about, I don't know what it was, something that I thought was pretty cool. So I wrote a lot of notes down anyway. So, but we're, in Impact Austin, we try different things. Some things work, some things don't. Sometimes timing is an issue. So you just never know, but you try to do different kinds of things. And so being in Austin the area of Austin is so difficult with traffic and stuff to get around, that some of that can cause some challenges too. And like I mentioned before, Austin has grown so much over the last number of years that it's such a variety of challenges logistically sometimes too. So, but anyway.
Oh, thanks. Okay, thank you for sharing all that. I want to quickly get a couple other comments here for Sandy Cook. I know Sandy is our co-chair for Philanos, but she also is really involved with Impact 100 in Denver. Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to, my colleague at Impact 100 Denver is Joanne Bennett on this call. And this question about recruiting and retention, we initiated a pretty significant onboarding program in the last 2 years that is growing. And I'll have Joanne talk about how that works. And, some of the challenges along the way, particularly data, but it is making a huge difference. I mean, we had 70 new members last year. I mean, that's a lot of people for a 220 member organization. So how do you get them pulled in, busy, connected? Joanne, you want to talk a little bit about the onboarding and the skill profile and so forth?
Sure. And then apologies because I have to leave in 4 minutes to go on another call. So okay. We, like has been mentioned before, we have 2 onboarding team members who reach out by phone and email to the new members, and they set up either a face-to-face or Zoom or a phone call to help the new member understand offerings and ways to get involved. We have a one pager that lists all of the committees and ways to get involved and email addresses so that people who want to, get involved can get involved. We're developing an onboarding, what we call a kit, which is information about the committees, information about how to participate in events, and a couple of other things that we're going to send out in addition to the first invite, because a lot of people are too busy to talk to one of the onboarding specialists. So we just have to have a standalone document that works, that anybody can just read and figure out what to do. And then we are doing planning now for next steps. We want to have a portion of our website be for members only, where they can find all of that information from the onboarding kit, where they can one of the things that helps us, I think, with engagement is we just started what we call an impact social group, and they are doing hikes, they're doing museum visits, they're doing plays, whatever they're doing. That information would be published also in the member only section. And what else? And then we want to have what we're calling buddies. This means getting more volunteers, but we want to have our new members be paired with a buddy, and then the buddy would have accountability for doing check-ins, maybe once a quarter, maybe 3 times a year. How's it going? Anything you need? Have you been attending events, etc.?
Oh, thank you. Wow. I think this has given me some great ideas for our next roundtable. Erin Drury.
Yeah. Yes, sorry. I'll just quickly add, similar to the buddy, last year we implemented an ambassador program. So every new member was paired up with an ambassador who was responsible for getting them engaged in all of the things that we do. And this year we're seeing a much higher renewal percentage from the last year's new members who had ambassadors. So early indications tell us that that's a program we're going to continue to execute.
I love that. And how large is your group?
We have about 420 members. And so we have almost 100. Well, we have almost 100 new members each year, but some of those 100 could be lapsed members who have come back.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah,
We probably had 60 members with ambassadors last year.
Okay. And then the last person, Paula, last but not least. You're on mute. There you go.
There we go. Okay. Actually, so what Aaron just brought up about, the buddy or ambassador program, and someone else mentioned it, I think right before too. We just started that program ourselves, so it's too early to know how that's going to work, but we suspect that for those people, we are offering it to new members if they want a buddy or ambassador. They're calling, well, they don't want to call it they're calling it a mentoring. The two people who are co-chairing this project are calling it mentoring. We started out calling it a buddy. I like ambassador. But some of our members, we have found that some of our members are like, oh, I don't need that because my friend who brought me in, so-and-so who brought me in is sort of serving in that, role. But there are people that do want it. So we're going to see how that goes. But one thing in addition that I wanted to mention that we do, and we've only been doing it once a year. Again, we are very small. We have 93 members. So it would be different for, you larger groups. But we were doing once a year, and we do have rolling admissions, if you will. So we were doing an orientation in the summer for our new members, but we're going to have to start doing that like biannually. And it started during COVID. I mean, we weren't planning to do it on Zoom, but COVID hit. And so we did it on Zoom, and it was more business than, there was some chit chat and so forth, but more business. But in the last couple of years, we've done it in person, and we just had, for instance, our new group of members. We invited them all, which were like 15 or 16 people. About half the group that were new members were able to actually come to this luncheon. So we have a new member coffee or luncheon at a member's home. We invite a co-chair from each of our committees to speak briefly about their committee and to kind of try to get the new members interested. We also have the one pagers and everything that people just talked about. We really encourage people to find a committee that they want to get on. I mean, obviously grants is the major committees that are 2 grant committees, but there are other committees that we need help too. So we really encourage people. And we also do, which has started up with our new co-presidents this past year, which have been they're just, I shouldn't say ad hoc. They're every other month we're having these coffees, which are, I've only been to one, unfortunately, because, well, you don't need to hear, I wasn't able to attend throughout the year, but I went to one and I was so impressed and met the members. A lot of our new members came to that as well. And new members and older members were bringing their friends, like some of these other people said too. It's really intended as a member coffee, but we open it up if people want to bring their friends. So yeah,
I love that. Thank you, Paula, for sharing. I apologize, everybody. We went over, but I just can't thank. I mean, there are so many terrific ideas. Wow. Renee and I have a lot to go on to figure out the next one, which will be in January. But just thank you. If you aren't registered for the conference, maybe this will convince you that you could share, learn, and connect at the conference and get some even better ideas and more ideas. But really, really appreciate it and appreciate your time.
Anne Marie, I just wanted to mention that you will be getting an email that that has links to the chat as well as the recording. And any of your members who were unable to attend this session, they too can access the audio recording. And we're always open to any suggestions that people have for future membership roundtables. Please feel free.
Yes,
let us know what you're thinking about.
I hope everybody has an awesome week, and thank you for your time and all that you do for making our world a better place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in Baltimore.